Elise is sitting with her hands on her head, crying. Paul is irritated by Will's questioning. Elise gets up scared, and Paul, Rena, Elise, and Jonas watch them open-mouthed without believing that revelation. Gordon didn't see Julia's body because they placed it next to the tents, close to the trees. Gordon is shocked, can't say anything, and falls to the floor, looking at his friends. Will gets up. Sally gets up and helps Nora. Fred takes some knives and an axe and looks at Paul. Paul nods. Fred hands the axe to Will and a knife to Gordon, who still holds it in shock. Everyone is standing, ready to go. Will just ignores it and starts walking towards the trees. The others follow him. Gordon gets up and looks at Rena, Paul, Elise, and Jonas, and also leaves last. But Paul takes Gordon's arm. Paul takes a radio out of his back pocket. Gordon picks up the radio and nods his thanks. Gordon puts the radio in his pocket and runs towards Will and stops him by holding his arm. Fred, Nora, and Sally, who were following right behind Will, also stop a few steps from the beginning of the trees and watch the two argue. Will, nervous about the whole situation, then turns and walks back to the camp towards Julia's body, and Gordon follows him. Gordon follows Will and then notices something wrapped on the floor and goes into shock as he continues walking towards Julia's body. Gordon sees the body wrapped in a blanket. One of the hands is out and Gordon recognizes the ring on her hand and starts to cry. He slowly bends down and pulls the blanket and sees her face all burnt and falls back in fright. Paul, Rena, Elise, and Jonas are shocked to see how Julia died and the state she is in. Again, Will enters the woods. Fred, Nora, and Sally follow him. Everyone already seems exhausted and expressionless in the face of it all. Gordon covers Julia's body again, gets up, and goes after them, looking back, still confused as he doesn't even know what happened. They continue through the forest and everything seems peaceful, but tension takes over everyone. They walk attentive to everything and any movement, looking everywhere. Sally follows right behind Will, followed by Fred and Nora. Fred helps Nora walk as her leg is in a bad shape. After a long walk, they arrive at the clearing where their camp is. Nora is almost without strength and Fred is almost carrying her as she can no longer walk. Her leg hurts a lot and she groans a lot in pain. Sally approaches Fred and Nora. Sally heads to the tent with Nora. Will sits by the already extinguished fire. With the help of the lantern lighting, he starts looking for things to light the fire. Gordon sits on a log next to the fire and is stunned. His head still hasn't been able to process what is happening. Will finally manages to light the fire and also sits down in front of it. Will and Gordon stare at the fire. Will looks around and starts to have flashes of what happened. Gordon looks at Will, waiting for more. Gordon cries, feeling extremely guilty. Gordon looks up, wiping away his tears. Will takes a breath, takes courage and starts to speak. As Will tells, Gordon doesn't seem to believe everything he hears, but Will continues telling the details. After all, nothing else matters. 2 of his friends have died and no one knows what else is to come. Gordon gets up and starts walking to the van. Will also gets up and follows him. From afar they see Fred sitting in the driver's seat, leaning on the steering wheel. Gordon and Will continue to approach the van, but Fred doesn't respond and doesn't move. Gordon arrives and grabs Fred's arm and he falls out of the van, dead, with his throat cut. A flash shows someone in the back seat of the van cutting Fred's throat as soon as he enters the van with no possibility of defending himself. The 2 walk away terrified, looking around. The 2 run to the tent where Sally and Nora are. They get in, scared and panting, and zip up. Nora is not well at all. Her leg is very red and swollen and she has started to have a fever. They can barely reason in the face of everything they are going through. Faced with tension and fear, they think about what to do. Gordon leaves the tent, looking around him, and runs to the van. Arriving, he pulls Fred's body out, gets into the van, and closes the door. Check the back seats to see if there is anyone there and lock the doors. Again he looks around, but sees no one. He tries to start the van, but can't. He looks around once again to check if there is anyone there, although in the dark he doesn't see anyone, so he decides to get out of the van to look at the engine. He takes a deep breath and runs down, opens the hood and takes a quick look, but he can't see anything wrong. Then he runs back to the tent. Will sees him running back. Gordon enters, panting. Everyone is tense and very nervous. Gordon remembers the radio Paul gave him before they left. Will soon takes the radio from Gordon's hand and tries to call Paul. The radio just makes noises, but no one responds. The radio makes noises, but there is no response from Paul. Gordon takes the radio from Will's hand. But no response. Sally starts to cry.